Welcome to episode 472 of the Recruitment Marketing and Sales Podcast. And I'm your host, Denise Oyston. And today we are concluding our little mini series on content marketing that hopefully will get all of you inspired to create some content over the summer, gets you all set up. And you can use it for influencing and all of the things and creating your brand awareness. So today I want to talk a little about content planning, really explain the difference between just-in-time content, evergreen content, and where you can use them. And also a little bit about ROI and how you move forward. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Recruitment Marketing and Sales Podcast. An obsessive focus on marketing and sales is the only way to accelerate your company growth. So listen in now as we share the latest strategies and techniques guaranteed to deliver you more placements and profits. Well, hi there everyone, this is Denise. Hope you and yours are well as we continue our series on content marketing, all of the things to be thinking about. And I've done it at this time of year because as we move into summer, sometimes people have a little bit more time and preparing for that mega busy period towards the end of the year. And for our many Australian listeners that we have, remember as well that I know you guys, you're starting your new financial year in July as well. So it's thinking through, what am I doing? What do I need to do? So that's one of the premises for doing this. Now, if you're new here, welcome. Great to have you. And as we motor through the year, it's not been the easiest year for many people across the globe. It is a good idea to review where you are with your marketing. So if you haven't done our new interactive scorecard, then I recommend that you do it. Really, really easy to do. And it'll give you a sense of where you are when it comes to marketing. And we based all the questions on our experience of what's working now in the market. We've been around actually over 18 years this year working with recruiters. So we've done many, many things, many campaigns written, built, sent out, lots of coaching, lots of consulting. So we do have an understanding on what works and you will get a personalized report. So it takes about anywhere, just looking on our latest data, anywhere between 3 and 4 minutes to complete this. Just go along to superfastrecruitment.co.uk/scorecard. That'll take you to a page. Pop your name and email address into the box that's there, and then carry out the assessment and be truthful. You're not going to go and need loads and loads of data. Most of this you will have in your head, and this will give you a real idea on where your focus should be. So if you haven't done that, go and do it. And of course, for anyone that takes the scorecard, we are happy to have a 45-minute call with you where we can give you maybe more guidance, more steer. Because obviously in some markets, things are slightly different. There is a theme across recruitment, but this might help you. So let's talk about content measurement planning. And I want to kick this off with talking about the difference between evergreen and just-in-time content. Now, this is a question we're often asked. What's the difference between evergreen versus just-in-time content, and which will give me the most traffic? What should I be doing? So here's a few definitions for you and an understanding. If you were held at gunpoint and someone said to you, you had to make this decision, is it evergreen or is it just in time? I would always go for evergreen content. And there's a reason for that. Just in time content is great. It gets you maybe aware or known in a market very, very fast. However, it's rarely sustainable and it doesn't necessarily last for years, whereas evergreen content does. Because the thing about evergreen content, it remains relevant and valuable for literally months and years. I'll give you an example. A couple of our clients have, when we had our agency side to the business where we just did purely content marketing for people, we have clients that I know because we're still in contact and they've got blogs that I wrote for them around interview skills, around talent pipelines that are still the highest performing blogs that they have on their website 10 years later. So you can see that evergreen content is really valuable. And it's the classic questions that people are always asking. Naturally, I do a lot of research when I'm writing content. So I'm making sure that all the content is in point. What is it that the market needs? And I do a lot of deep research for our clients when we write content for Superfast Circle. And amazingly, yes, there are a few new different things that, around how do I perform well in a video interview and things like that. But generally, the fundamental premise and the fundamental questions people have haven't really changed in years. It's about interview confidence. It's about, should I move companies? It's about, how do I develop myself? It's about, how do I engage people in my team? How do I build a team? How do I identify the right people? How do I build culture? So imagine it's all of those things that are evergreen content. And I think the thing is, this addresses the fundamental topics, questions, and problems that are in the industry at the moment. And what is great about evergreen content is it requires minimal updating. For instance, we have a post that is on our website. It has been there now for, I think, nearly 14 years. I update it every single year, and it's still the highest performing blog that we have and podcast, and it's around lead generation, which is always going to be a topic for recruiters. So you can see how that can really work. And honestly, it takes me very little time to update this post every year. So you can see how that could work really well for you. Examples of evergreen content, and I shared some of them in the previous podcasts, how-to guides, all the fundamental foundational concepts that I've just shared with you around interview skills, around confidence, about deciding if this is the right employer, about how to perform well at an interview, all of the things that people are asking. Now, just-in-time content is a bit different. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't write just-in-time content. It's just, think about your time and the impact that will have. Now, at the moment, we're going through a very, very turbulent time. We have various things going on in the US and happening with the president over there. Whether this is not a political podcast, I'm just saying that. Now, if you decide to write something about Donald Trump and tariffs, you might get a spike in traffic. But is that going to be as relevant in a year's time? I suspect not. It has a much shorter relevance window. And obviously, it's capitalizing on trends and searches and timely interests if people on Google Trends. So examples, industry news analysis, trends reports, seasonal guides. Now, it depends on your market. And there is nothing wrong in, as a recruiter, depending where you are in the world, it might be that when people come back after summer, they're more likely to look for a new role. So that really is an evergreen topic, but some people might think of that as just in time. That is something that could get shared all the time from you on your website, on social media, because that would help. So you can see how just consider the difference between the two. So the next question you may have is, how much should I do of each? Now, if you go along to the Content Marketing Institute, people that write a lot of content, people like myself, I mean, I've written, it's approaching 5 million words. Can you believe that? Over the years. So generally, it's suggested that you create anywhere between 70 to 80% of your content needs to be evergreen, and just 20% needs to be just in time. So that will give you a good content split for maximum effectiveness. Now, I might write things about Facebook advertising or about LinkedIn advertising or the Facebook algorithm or LinkedIn. And when I do that, I know that might change. Or I might talk about, so in the next podcast, we've had a couple of questions. I'm going to answer one of the questions about creator mode, which again may disappear completely in the future in 2 or 3 years' time. However, it's an important question. So that will be more just-in-time content. So you can see the relevance of that. I think it is important to create some just-in-time content because it's an opportunity for you to demonstrate that you're relevant, you understand the timeliness of what's going on. And that is important too. And of course, it's good because you're demonstrating value, but also you're capturing some spikes in traffic that is always useful. Now, obviously, depending on the sector, niche that you operate in, some of you may have more news-orientated fields that might need more timely content than others. So obviously that might be you. And off the top of my head, I can't really think of an example. Maybe hospitality. I think with everything that's going on in the market, particularly in the UK, there's some new legislation and laws around payments and things like that. So that might be more relevant. So that is evergreen and just-in-time content. So now let's talk about planning. Now, before we start running off and creating our content plan, getting all excited and getting onto the AI tools that I'll mention later, the thing to think about, first of all, is who do we want our content to be in front of? Obviously, we've talked about candidates and clients, but let's just dive a little bit deeper and think about the buyer's cycle. Remember, people are on different points of the buyer's cycle. And as they are going through the buyer's cycle, then they are making decisions. So we're taking people from unaware to aware of you in the first place. And then we're going through that process that all of us go through when we're making a major purchase. And that is, we start to have considerations. We've got questions before we make a decision, and then before we say yes to working with that person. Now, different types of content can make an impact there. Go and I'm not going to go through all of the types of content here, because go to our website. There are several podcasts. Go into the search bar and you will find several posts that you can knock yourself out on and listen to. And to give you some ideas of where to start, go and have a look at the Standing Out on Social Media post that I did a while back. I actually uploaded a training session onto YouTube. So go and have a look at our YouTube channel, Superfast Recruitment, and you'll find it on there. And there we share about the different types of content. So generally, if you imagine, there are 3 themes of content to use that will really cover all your bases. Remember, you're taking people on a journey from never having met you. They'll have seen maybe a post of yours on LinkedIn. They'll think, oh, I need to find out more about that. And we've all done it, haven't we? We've seen a really interesting post of somebody. Next thing, we're on the website. Next thing, we're putting our name and email address in. That's the sort of impact that you want to have. So think about the 3 types of content that you want to use. It's in our Standing Out on Social. So I really encourage you to go and have a look on that, either on YouTube or on our website. And those 3 types of content, first of all, positioning content. Really competitive market. You have to position yourself as an expert and what you're talking about. There's promotional content. There's no free lunch. So obviously you need to promote the jobs that you have. You need to promote you and who you are using case studies and social proof. And I'm going to actually record another podcast about that in a couple of weeks, just as a good reminder. And then the other thing is personal and company branding. That's really important to do, because people buy people in today's market more than ever. Since COVID and since the pandemic, people have become much more collaborative, and it's really important for them to know you and your values and have a values match with people that they work with. So that is something that you need to consider when you're planning out your content. I just wanted to take a moment to connect with all of you amazing listeners. As you know, our podcast isn't sponsored, and we pour our hearts into bringing you quality content for every single episode. Now, if you've been enjoying the show, I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. You can find me at linkedin.com/Denise Oyston. That's Oyston. Just click that link. Let's connect. And also a quick reminder that sharing our podcast or giving us a shout out on social goes a long way to helping grow our community and getting the message out there to all of the small recruitment companies and staffing companies and search companies that want to do well. Your support does mean the world to us, and it helps us to continue doing what we love. So thanks for being part of the journey. Now let's get back to that show. Now let's just talk about planning. And I have to be honest, planning is so much easier than it used to be because we have amazing AI tools. And I personally use an AI tool because we have a lot of content, and I've already shared and given you a clue about your positioning and promotional content. So what I do is I use my favorite AI. Start again, Denise, you're getting so excited. You're not pronouncing words correctly. AI tool. And obviously a lot of people use Chat GPT. They've created their own GPTs and they do things with that. That's great. I use something called Claude AI. I use the pro version and I find that brilliant. So what I do is I have a prompt that I have written that I put in, and I ask it to create a content plan for me. Just go and try it. I'm absolutely certain ChatGPT will do this for you as well. And I tell it about the content that I want to share and when I want to share it, because this is something that's important. Because for those of you listening to this, let's just say you are in the US. I know we have a lot of US listeners. You're in the US and you do business across the whole of the US. So you have clients on the West Coast, you have clients in the middle of the US, and you have clients on the East Coast. Now, there is a huge time difference. It's very similar for our clients and our subscribers over in Australia. From Perth to Sydney, there's a big gap. And so you have different time zones. So it is important that if you want your content in front of different people at different times, it can and used to be a bit of a nightmare, because we have clients in the US, we have clients in Australia, we have clients in Europe, and we have clients all over the UK. So I want our content to appear in front of people that are just waking up in San Francisco, and also people that are just going to bed in Sydney. So therefore, what I ask, and it's really easy, do a really detailed prompt. This isn't a lesson on creating prompts, and I'm sure many of you have worked out how to do prompts. Top tip, the more detail, specific and factual you can be, the better output you will have. And I ask the tool that I use to create me a plan. I know the types of content I want on different days. I know the different times I want content to go out. And then I ask it to create a content plan for me. And it does. And then what I do is I follow that plan. It really is as simple as that. So I'm going to come on to posting and everything else, but just think about how simple that is to do. Because the truth is, it's very easy. Say you're in the UK, there's a huge thing about, you must hit the algorithm at 8 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, maybe that works. But I might write a personal branding post and it goes out early in the morning in the UK. But I also want to connect with clients in America and potential new clients in Australia. So somebody in Australia is just getting up in the morning around about 10 o'clock at night in the UK. So I might post a personal branding post then at that time. And I can use an automation tool that will help me do that, or I can pre-program it in LinkedIn. So you can see all of those differences that can help. So if you haven't thought about doing that, just go and have a play around with it. I think it will blow your mind at how good these tools are now at creating planning documents for you. So a little piece now on automation tools. If you want to use automation tools, LinkedIn and Facebook in the business section on your Facebook page, and I would encourage you to post on Facebook, does have a way for you to actually automate posting. So you can schedule all your posts and then they will appear at different times. Very easy to do. You can do it in advance. I think on LinkedIn, you can do it like 3 months in advance, something like that. So you can use LinkedIn's native scheduling tool. It really does work. There are several other automation tools that you can use. And it depends on your budget. In fact, I'm going to record an additional podcast in a few weeks' time about some of the tools that I use. People often ask, tools that I use from a marketing, not necessarily recruiter tools, but tools that will help with marketing, save time, help you be more productive. We use an automation tool, and we use LinkedIn's scheduling tool for different channels that we use. And obviously there is a multiple range of those. There are some that are a lot more expensive and will do multiple things. I think Pager is one of them. Depends on your budget and what you want something to do. We use something called SmarterQ. Obviously, there's Hootsuite and different things. So automation can be useful to use there. So that is something for everyone to consider. Let's just finish up talking about measurement. Obviously, the goal that everyone wants is more clients, more candidates, all of those things. And that obviously comes. But let's just look at some of the inputs that we've talked about that you're doing with content and brand presence. And it was interesting talking to one of our clients. We're running this personal branding sort of boot camp at the moment that we do with our Superfast Circle clients. And one of our members hadn't been posting as much on LinkedIn by his own admission. And basically, he's just turned the dial up. So he's gone from having a few hundred impressions a week to last week having something like nearly 4,000. So you can just see the difference that this makes. And logically, what I would say is a few areas to look at and monitor. Obviously, your website traffic. Have some sort of monitoring tool on your website. Now, I use Google Analytics, Google Analytics 4. I have Google Search Console, so I can see how is our traffic performing. I would look at your impressions on LinkedIn. I'm going to talk a little bit about creator mode next week, because now that's available to everyone. And that will actually give you an idea on how visible you are becoming. So it'll give you an idea on the impressions that you have. So I always look at how many impressions am I getting. A few weeks ago, I recorded a podcast to say, yes, engagement is great, but don't worry too much as a recruiter about engagement. It's about how many people are seeing my content. Because I can tell you for a fact that just even from our perspective, that we post a lot on LinkedIn. If I look at people that have commented on our website, on our social posts, all our clients, before they started working with us, they never commented. Because sometimes people don't want other people to think, oh, that person must be working with them. Human beings, we're crazy, aren't we? The things that we think and don't think. So think about your impressions. As I always say, it's great. If I post a post and it's had 300 or 400 impressions, to me, that's like standing up in front of an audience. And I've got people actually stopping and looking. And then there's the next step where they might actually send me a message. So most people, when we start talking to them, have seen our content on LinkedIn and say, yeah, I've been watching your content sometimes we say people have been watching it for years. And then they come and say, yeah, we want to work with you. So just always think about that, because one of the other things you can do is actually have a look at when you start posting, if you keep a record of your connection metrics, in the sense that how many people that you reach out to cold on LinkedIn, remember, this is always part of something to do, how many people that you reach out to, what's your percentage rate of people that say, that actually say, yes, I want to connect with you. You will be quite impressed that the more content you share, the more that connection rate improves, which is what we all want. We talked about website traffic, talked about LinkedIn. The other thing to think about is your email campaigns. Obviously, we talked about email around content. And the classic thing is your email open rate and your click-through rate. They will start to improve the better your content gets, the more you email out. And bizarrely, the more you email out in a campaign structure, then the better your open rate will become. So lots of things around content that we've shared. I hope you found it useful. I know you will have. And I would just encourage you to use content as a way to position yourself and stand out. I think I'm going to actually make available the Lead Generation Triad webinar as an audio recording for people. And that'll give you an understanding around where content fits as well. I think you'll find it incredibly useful. And it just gives you that flow of work. People need convincing. They need understanding, and you need to position yourself as the person to work with. So this is our mini series on content. I've got a few more questions that I'm going to, rather than let this podcast go on too long, a few more questions that I'm going to answer in next week's podcast that I think will be useful. If you've got any others, then email me once you get this, and I will answer them. And I hope you enjoyed it. This is Janine saying bye for now, and I'll see you next time. If you enjoy this podcast and this year you are ready to take your marketing to the next level, then check out Superfast Circle. This is a unique marketing program designed specifically for recruiters and their marketeers. You get access to 2 virtual marketing directors, you get consultancy, you get your hand held through the whole process, training, consulting, and we provide content resources. So go over to superfastrecruitment.co.uk /join and check out what's available.